All right, I know it's starting to look worse, but it's got to look worse before it'll start looking better. So we got everything blowing apart. We got hoods and tailgates and windshield frames. All that's got to be prepped and ready. But I'm jumping in on the tub and getting it prepped. So like I said, this is a brand new tub. And right now I'm just going through and sanding everything down to just with the Scotch-Brite to get it all roughed up for paint. So trying to make sure that there's no little burrs or anything like that. This tub did not come with top bow brackets or here or here. And so had to weld those in. Also, the owner has this rack system for carrying kayaks. So we put that in, just gonna smooth some of those welds out just a little bit with some body filler you can see there. And then the other thing up underneath the dash right there, that is the hump that the previous guy had put in to install this straight six. You can kind of see it there. It's just a little curved back piece. Looks pretty good from this side, but this side was looking just a little bit rough, so I wanted to do something with it. So we got a little bit of filler on that. We'll smooth that out. So gonna jump back on sanding, try to get the whole thing sanded. We'll shop vac it out. One thing I'm gonna do on the interior of the Jeep, I believe I'm gonna go ahead and roll this like I did the CJ3B. So let me get the prep work done. We'll get it cleaned up and then I'll show you a few things, details on that. This is definitely an awkward spot to try to get up in there and sand. All right, so I did tape off the body because I'm just gonna be painting the inside, but I am okay with painting this and then taking it off, lightly sanding that fresh paint later when I paint the sides. And that way this area's got twice as much paint as I would have just here. But this came out okay. Shot a little primer on that as well. It's not perfect, but I think it's pretty good, especially considering you really won't see it between pedals, the heater, and of course once the gauges are in. So things are coming along good. Now I'll just continue to do a little bit more of my rough sanding, make sure everything's good here, and we are getting close to paint. All right, after the sanding, I went ahead and just used some Prep All, which is just like a degreaser to get anything that I may have missed. Tried to wipe the entire thing down. You can see it's already starting to kind of dry off, so we definitely want that to dry all the way. All right, with everything prepped, I went ahead and I'm doing a little test batch. This is the tan, but I'm just gonna do the inside of the toolbox. I'm using an 8-to-1, 8 parts paint, 1 part hardener. That is what GCI said in their literature. So we're just gonna give that a little test in here just to see how it works before we put it over the whole thing. Okay, I'm sorry I did not start the camera, but the paint is already going in. If I go in close, so you can see this first coat, and so it's going on pretty good. It does have a hardener in it, so it should have a little bit of a shine to it. It shouldn't be quite as dull as that GCI paint is if you don't put a hardener in. So I have to mix up one more batch to get a first coat on everything, and then I'll give it just a little bit. If you look, possibly, yeah, right here on the lid, you can already see that is starting to kind of tack up a little bit. And I kind of re-rolled a little bit in the floor. So anyway, we'll get this going, finished, and then get ready to start a second coat. Right now I'm at 24 ounces of paint. So 24 ounces, so I'm gonna mix up one more. That'll bring me to 32. So 32 ounces to do a first coat on the entire inside, roughly, give or take a little bit, and then that would be 4 ounces of hardener. So I forgot to show you just tack clothing with a little wax tack cloth. I'll just show you kind of here. You know, it's always a good idea to do that before you do any kind of paint, takes any little dust and stuff off. And then I like to, again, use some Prep All and just wipe everything. But here we are, we're the next day, and so everything is kind of dried out. Definitely gonna need a second coat. You can see like right there, definitely kind of thin. Sides need just a little bit more, so we're gonna at least give it well, actually this will be almost a third coat. Some areas have got a good solid 2 coats, so this will be a third coat, and then probably I'll try to do one more after that. So there's our little toolbox. So we got some paint in that. I always use something just to kind of hold it. Let me show you. Just to kind of hold it open so that nothing is pinched shut when it's drying. So I did notice had a couple little spots where I've got some little pieces from my brush. And so I will go through, slightly sand a couple of those areas before I do this next coat, and then again wipe it down with that tack cloth. Right there, this is the tan, and this is the real light tan. There is a darker tan that you can get, and then I also put just a little bit, about a ½ ounce of xylene in this last coat. I didn't put any in the first 2 coats, just to help it kind of flatten out a little bit. But the hardener, here's the other hardener that I'm now using because I ran out of the other. So just kind of using those 3 products as my paint. All right, our third coat is on, and we got pretty good coverage this time. Just a couple little spots that we'll come back, touch up. So we're gonna get the hood prepped up to paint the inside of that. You can see here somebody brazed. This one's real good. Brazed up the hood, so we'll get this kind of cleaned up enough to get a nice coat of paint on it. And before I do that, of course, I'll make sure the other side is done. I should show you that real quick. Somebody had stripped most of it. There's a couple of spots that need a little work, but nothing too bad. So the inside, though, has a lot of stuff on it and a lot of scratch marks from somebody trying to take some of the stuff off. So got to try to get some of that out. You can really see them here, or that's going to look terrible. The hood is pretty much ready for paint now. I used 80 grit. An older body shop guy told me always on bare metal, rough it up with 80 because then it gives the primer something to bite to. So definitely did that all the way around. Like I said, I sanded it pretty good in around the Willys. You know, there are still going to be a few of the little dents, but I feel like I got the majority of them out as far as, you know, big. You know, when you rub your hand over, it's going to feel pretty good. I'm going to put multiple layers of primer on this and sand it. So hopefully that will also help flatten it out just a little bit. Again, we're not trying to make a perfect Jeep. We're just trying to make a really nice Jeep. So I'm going to flip this over. Now that this side is done, finish the inside sanding. All right, I just tapped the hood on the floor, and that's the sanding dust that came off. So we'll get that cleaned up, but I just kind of wiped the inside. I did go back in with a wire wheel and just kind of try to make sure I got some of that out. I believe the person that was working on this before me actually used some stripper on this, and so I wanted to make sure that there wasn't any of that residue left in there. So you can still kind of see some of my high spots were sanding. You know, there was obviously a pretty good crease right there that I didn't take most of that out. I only touched it a little bit, but that one's pretty good. And you can kind of see where the high spots are. Instantly, they sand up real quick. But we're gonna go ahead, give this one more good wipe, and then I think we're gonna spray primer on it, let it dry, and then we'll be able to paint. I already have the tailgate ready and our little shift cover. So these are all on the inside, so I'm gonna do the same thing I did on the tub, because this came out pretty nice, pretty smooth. There you go, you can kind of see it. I'm gonna roll it. So this is gonna get with the little foam roller as well as those 2 items. So let's get going. So I got all those parts painted. It was then time to start prepping stuff for actually spray painting. So here I'm hitting the windshield, getting that all ready. I had lots of little parts that needed to be cleaned up before paint. Sorry, the heater is on, but I thought I'd show you with a little bit of light shining at it. So you can kind of see there's a couple little spots where it's either a little dry or it's drying off already. Right in that corner, actually it flattened out. There was a little run starting there, but overall, it cleaned up pretty good. I'm gonna let this tack off, put one more coat on it. I definitely got, yeah, you can see it right there. So that I'll have to sand down a little bit, but that's trying to get a little too much paint up in those corners all at once. So overall though, I'm glad I spent a little extra time making sure I got all the paint out of the backside of this, because this is what people, the driver is gonna be staring at, is this. So glad I got that cleaned up good. But overall, the windshield frame is actually in pretty nice shape. All right, the tailgate flattened out just like it's like butter. That is just beautiful. We'll see how it dries and see if I got much for any kind of fish eyes or anything like that. I'm not seeing anything so far. The hood is just a little bit less. It didn't flatten out quite as good. I was spraying it a little bit dry. I had to slow my gun speed down to get a little more paint on. So that's, we're definitely doing another coat. We're do 3 coats total on everything. But our windshield frame, I'm gonna also say, the light there, looks pretty respectable. You can see there's a little bit of orange peel in the paint. But again, that's the type of paint this is. So we're not trying to lay down something perfect. But boy, it's not too bad. I usually hate using any filler in a Jeep if I can at all help it. But right here where some of those welds were and where some of the damage was, I did go ahead and put some in. So one thing I like to use is something big, long, and flat. This is almost like a cheese grater. Take down all the high spots with that. And then if you're gonna do it, make sure you use a sanding block. This one's kind of short. I like a little bit bigger one, but then you can go in, kind of take it down the rest of the way. I may have to go back in and just put a little bit into some of the little lines, but keep your Bondo to a minimum if you can help it. So this is pretty much the last opportunity you're gonna have to find any blemishes before paint. So if you feel something, fix it. All right, it's time to finish all the paint at once now. So I've got the inside of the tub all taped off, the outside all the way around taped off. So the tub, that will be finished now. The grill, all the primer is all sanded. The fenders I think came out pretty good. Overall, they look pretty good. Got those scuffed up. Yep, that's pretty decent. And the only thing left to do is I got a couple little brackets, and then this windshield frame, I had a little run and I cleaned it up a little bit. So I'm just gonna reshoot this panel. I don't wanna reshoot the whole windshield frame, so just tape that off. So I got a couple little brackets to just roughly sand real quick, and then we can get going. I love this. So hopefully all my hood bolts will all be nice and coated, and then with that little tape, it holds them up and away so that everything gets a good coat of paint. So next thing to do, get those done, wipe everything, and then start mixing paint. So you notice here I'm using mineral spirits, not the xylene like I did with the roller. That's because GCI recommended using mineral spirits as your thinner if you're going to spray this paint. The Jeep is back in my shop, and I've got all the parts painted, I think. Lots of little nuts, bolts, everything, and it's all over the place. That's because I've been painting all the little Willys on each piece of the Jeep. So, this is a huge mess. The only way to clean it up is to start putting some pieces back on the Jeep. So that's what we're gonna do to finish up this video. Get some stuff thrown back together so we can make some space and clean the shop up a little bit, because we need to do wiring and some of those things next. So let's get going. All right, we're gonna get this swept and cleaned up, but the Jeep is kind of starting to come together, so that is exciting. Still got fenders to do up here, bunch of interior stuff, but check back again. We're gonna do another video real soon, and hopefully we'll be on the trail even sooner. So hey, thanks again for watching.